The New York Giants are victorious. Welcome to another episode 130 of the Giant Take Podcast. I am Josh, and I am joined by my co-host Alex. Giants 13, Eagles 7, NFC East win, victory, whatever you want to call it, against our rivals there in Philly. You know, this tension has been brewing for the last 2 years. We clip those wings, we chop those wings. We would, whatever Alex is doing with his fingers, that he wants to indicate there to everyone watching and listening. We appreciate you for joining us in this episode. If you are new, the Giant Take Podcast, we give you all of the previews and recaps you are looking for, as well as content left and right on the YouTube channel, on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on the TikTok, the Giant Take Pod on most of those platforms, the Giant Take Podcast on YouTube. If you're listening right now, we appreciate that you are joining us because we're going to talk all about this game, what we liked, what we didn't like, and we will not give you any BS or anything that we feel shouldn't be mentioned because we're not the Giants. We're ourselves. We got our own opinions. And I would first like to start off with this was a sloppy game. We were on the right side of this sloppy performance. We were able to get it done. And Alex, how does it feel to beat the Eagles?
It feels great to beat the Eagles. You look at the scoreline, you look at the result, you see the W in the W column, and you're all happy. But if you watch the game, I think if you're any fan with eyes, you could see that it was not great certainly today, especially offensively. Defensively, we had a few odd moments as well. Obviously, right at the end there with Jalen Reagor, which we'll get into more later. But it's just it's unnerving a bit how the gameplay ended up playing out, especially when we looked more comfortable kind of going into the fourth quarter from the third quarter, and how we kind of make these games so close and so heart-wrenching so easily. And that's just the big problem. Obviously, we had the new, I'm not going to say offensive coordinator, right? We can't say that because Joe Judge doesn't want to say that. Even the post-game press conference, no. We have offensive coaches who did a spectacular job. I don't know if that's what he said, but I'm assuming he said something like they did a very good job or something. But anyway, they did not seem to know exactly what was going on, and it seemed very Jason Garrett-esque in terms of the play calling. But besides that, obviously we have lots more to talk about in this game. But Josh, why don't we start with the offensive play calling, since that's kind of what all the news has been about this week.
Yeah, Alex, I agree with you. I didn't know which way you wanted to take it because we can go all sort of types of ways. I think we say the last drive because there is a lot of stuff to nail down on that to last because it was the quote-unquote last drive. So we'll do that. You want to talk about the offensive play calling? Sure. So we went through this whole week with a few different changes, starting out with the transition from offensive coordinator Jason Garrett to offensive coordinator for only today's game that I will say was Freddie Kitchens. He was in Daniel Jones's ear along with Daniel Jones having the play sheet on his arm to get him through this game, to navigate through the play sheet. And there was also a report about Kenny Golladay, how the Giants wanted to get him more involved. There was the story this morning with Kim Jones that I saw, NFL Network reporter. She has a lot of relationships in the Giants system. That she basically came out with a report on Kenny Golladay that Joe Judge earlier in the week, I think it was on Monday, called him to the front of the plane or something, and he thought he was in trouble, Golladay did. But it was actually Joe Judge saying, hey, we're going to get you more involved. We're going to get you your first touchdown. The Giants were really intent on doing that. In today's game, the following day after Judge talked to Golladay, offensive coordinator Jason Garrett was fired. So that's something to think about. And then we go to today. Golladay was targeted a little bit more. He had a few catches here and there. I can read the direct stats when I go through my little report later in the episode. But I guess just saying when it comes to the offensive play calling, Alex, that we're talking about, Stefanski, why in the preview episode, in the recap episode, I love the Cleveland Browns so much, I guess. Not Stefanski, former Browns head coach, Freddie Kitchens, stepped in today, called offensive plays, and Alex and I wanted to talk about this before we hopped on here live, when we're recording this live, whatever. It'll come out tomorrow morning, Monday morning for everyone listening or watching. when talking about it before we recorded, we wanted to get on the same page here, and we said, really, it wasn't anything too crazy different from Jason Garrett. I noticed that it seemed like he ran the ball a bit more intently, ran the ball a little bit more. I don't know if it was just Daniel Jones or if he told him specifically, but I feel like Daniel Jones would step up in the pocket more in this game, which was a good sign because when he did that, he completed a few different throws. We moved the ball down the field. And I don't know how much that lands on the offensive coordinator and different play calls or how much that lands on the Giants offense itself. And the one big thing that we saw was a little flea flicker. It was a handoff to a running back. Maybe it was Barkley. Flipped it back to Jones. We got a nice completion there for about 16 yards, I want to say, something around those lines. Besides that, I didn't really see that much. I've been talking for a while, Alex, so I want to get your thoughts on this because you did bring up the subject of the Giants' offensive play calling. So what do you got on this?
In terms of the play calling, it was similar. We saw a few things with Kenny Golladay that I thought were interesting. We saw kind of Daniel Jones just, his first read, snaps the ball, just kind of looks at Kenny Golladay and threw it right to him. Obviously, Darius Slay was on him the whole time, and I thought he did excellent coverage on Golladay. I believe there was maybe 2 or 3 kind of contested catch balls. The only thing I would say with that is Daniel Jones threw it so that Golladay kind of had to get around Darius Slay. If, let's say Darius Slay's in front of me here, Golladay had to kind of reach his arms around to catch the ball. And I think something that would be better for Daniel Jones and, when Golladay, if they can communicate this better, is kind of just to get it so that he puts the ball where only Golladay can reach it, throw it higher, throw it, deeper towards the sideline in which Golladay can get it and Darius Slay cannot. So I saw that, on both of those throws, I believe they were both towards the end zone, that it was kind of like he threw it almost right at Darius Slay, expecting that Golladay could somehow, it's not a contested catch when the ball's not above them, right? It was around, if that makes any sense. Anyone who saw them understands what I'm saying. Anyone who didn't see it is wondering what the hell I'm talking about, but Just watch some of those Golladay contested catches and you'll understand what I'm saying. In terms of the offensive line in that impact with the play calling, the offensive line did not change. It was still horrendous everywhere apart from Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas, yeah?
No, I was just going to say I would agree. I mean, we're not changing how our offensive line does things, though.
I'm not saying necessarily, but in the way that we use the offensive line, do we do some quicker throws because our offensive line's not? It seemed very Jason Garrett-esque in the way in our style of usage in the run game, in the style in which we throw the ball. We didn't really have quick passes. We did a lot of play action. Even though the play action, they didn't really bite on the play action because we weren't getting anything going in the run game. So that, there's almost no point of play action at that point. That's why sometimes you see these teams that primarily pass the ball, such as the Bills, for example. You rarely see the Bills use play action because we know they don't run the ball well. So that's one of the reasons why. And Nate Solder just sucks. He sucks so bad. I know it's not really to do with offensive play calling, but I'm just going to the offense in general now because I kind of hit on the play calling. Nate Solder needs to go. What the hell? Why? Whoever decided that Nate Solder, for any reason, should be starting over Matt Parrott is just delusional. Because there's no way in the world that anyone could be worse than Nate Solder. Nate Solder, should be playing golf right now. I texted Josh that. He should be going to play golf. It's ridiculous. The guy just stands there, and people run right past him, through him, around him, probably under him. No idea what the hell is going on there. Over him, they probably jump over him. Probably leans down a little bit. He literally invites edge rushers to the quarterback, and it's just so frustrating. And there's no way Matt Parrott could be any worse. I'm desperate. I know we've been saying this every week. Matt Parrott needs to start. There's nothing worse that could happen with Matt Parrott than there is with Nate Solder. At least Matt Parrott moves a little bit, Matt Parrott's also been known for standing still sometimes, but at least he moves a little bit. Nate Solder is a statue at the offensive tackle position.
I think, Alex, it's funny because we said it last episode, a bunch of other Giants content creators, a bunch of other Giants fans, they go on their places of media, whether it is podcasts, YouTube channels, Twitter accounts, Instagram. I don't care. Well, I felt like we've done this last week. We've done this multiple weeks. Matt Parrott needs to be starting next week. I need to see it happen. Right? It's always so frequent. We said that so many times this season. We said it last week for sure. And yet it's Nate Soldier right back out there again. So I don't know if we want to give this guy a chance. I don't know. I mean, maybe, the coaches just don't think he's ready. But how ready are you going to get where we're just not going to use Matt Parrott in replacing Nate Soldier, right? I don't know when. I don't know when. Like, if it's not now, if it's not now, when? I mean, there's no better time for a second-year player to come in. And you can't say, oh, he's not ready yet. Because I don't feel that as a valid excuse, because he's been ready. He played a lot of snaps last season. He's played snaps this season. So what are we waiting for? What? Like, I really need to know. I'm kind of that upset. I'm saying it like I'm on a FaceTime with Joe Judge right now. But the way I'm saying it is like, what? Like, what's the deal? What's the issue? Like,
what could possibly be worse about Matt Parrott starting? There's no way that Nate Solder gives us a better chance to win than Matt Parrott. That's all I'm like. That would be the only excuse that Joe Judge would make. He'd be like, we want to win. We don't want to worry about development, blah, blah, blah. He's not helping us win. He's helping us lose. And when we don't lose, it's not because of him. Let's just be honest there. And with the offensive line, we're not opening any holes in the run game. Saquon Barkley is struggling mightily because of this. He had one breakaway run, but besides that, he was stuffed. There was 2 plays, I believe, where literally Daniel Jones was still handing the ball off to him, and Alex Singleton was already in the backfield tackling him. How is that possible? Fletcher Cox was one of them too. He did that one time too. How is that possible? I don't understand. Like, when the ball is snapped, surely you put your arm. Like, I'm not an offensive lineman, right? It's easy to say this from my couch or from my chair at this point right now. But you'd think you just put your hands out, kind of block for a second, just a second at least, so that he can hand the ball off. I don't understand. It's just this offensive line needs a total revamp. Andrew Thomas, send him on vacation. And we need to get a whole new unit next to him. And then he can come back and be like, oh, this is much better. Because right now, I would hate to be Andrew Thomas because he's on this terrible offensive line, and it's just awful. And I'd hate to be Daniel Jones as well, or Saquon Barkley, or anyone that has to deal with them, to be honest.
Yeah, and my father made a joke today saying that was Saquon's longest rush in 3 years. Today when he broke out for a few. I'm going to go to the offensive stats in a minute, and then we can head to the defense, because that was a big factor in this game, Alex, because we're really stuck on offense right now. But the next thing is, what else are you going to say? Because you can't say, oh, yeah, we're here to win football games. Nate Solder's going to really – because he's not. Like you were saying, he's helping us lose football games. And then you can't also go on the line and be like, hey, we're trying to contend for a playoff spot. Okay. So put Parrott in then if you're trying to contend for a playoff spot. Because if you want to build for the future, right? We're trying to build for the future. We're trying to win games. The only way to do that is to not play the older, worse guy. It's to play the younger person who's trying to develop in his career in the NFL and get to the point of success. And in order to gain knowledge and develop your skills at a certain position in the NFL or in anything, even in a job position. Someone who's going to work tomorrow as an accountant, right? You got your experience as being an accountant from doing the actual work of accounting. You didn't do something else. You weren't sitting at your house and just oh, yeah. 2 years later, you're just yup, I'm an accountant now. Guys, it's all great.
You weren't just sitting on your ass playing Sudoku. You were doing shit.
Right. You were calculating the numbers, and now you're an accountant, and you're going to work as an accountant. So it's the same deal with Matt Parrott. If we're just going to have him sit on the bench and come in every other play, okay, is that really going to accomplish development in his career? No. So he needs to step in. We need to make the change. I get we paid Soldier money. We adjusted his contract. Now it's lower. So that shouldn't even be a problem either, that we're paying him so many millions of dollars, because he adjusted his contract to help the team.
And he's gone at the end of this year, right? There's no way that he's staying, right? There's just, he's going to get paid more money next year. It just makes sense. You just have to cut him. So at that point, you're looking like, hey, we got to replace 3 interior offensive line positions already, right? We got 3 guys in there who probably need to be replaced, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. Do I think they will be? Not necessarily, but hopefully at least a couple of them are. Wouldn't it be nice to know, hey, maybe we don't have to replace the right tackle position. Let's see how Matt Peart does. Let's give him 6-7 games. Could he be a nice, maybe he's not the franchise right tackle, but could he be a nice fill-in-the-gap kind of player who could either be a nice backup for us or someone who we can have starting next year, right? Because we're not going to be able to draft 4 offensive linemen or pick 4 starting caliber ones up in free agency. Some people are going to have to stay. So is that going to be Matt Skura or is that going to be Matt Peart, right? It would be good to know. And it's not like it's hurting us right now by putting him in. That it's just we're talking about this too much now, but it's just mightily annoying.
Right, it's not the Nate Soldier podcast.
Yeah,
I would like to say that, but don't even forget, Alex. We have a center in Billy Price, and the man is pretty old for a center in the league. So we're gonna also have to.
Isn't he younger? I thought no. Billy
Price.
Billy Price is 25. I want to say.
There is no way Billy Price is 25.
Look up his age. I'm pretty sure Billy Price is like 25-ish because he's a third-year guy in the NFL.
27. Okay,
27. Okay, he's in between what we're both saying.
Right. So we have the center in Billy Price. That's there right now. But don't forget, we also had a really good center before he got injured, obviously. So
I mean, I would also say Nick Gates. Giants fans love Nick Gates. I love Nick Gates, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily a starting caliber offensive lineman, but he's solid. So he's
a starting center.
Yeah, but I don't think he was the best center ever, right?
No, but I think he's better than Billy Price.
Yeah, but that's also not saying
all right. This isn't the offensive line.
This isn't the offensive line show. We'll talk about that in the offseason.
To finish off the bullet point that we have here, though, Alex, Freddie Kitchens didn't change the role that Jason Garrett had, right? He didn't fully transition this team, right? I just want to, so we can get the offense done.
It's very similar, yes. Offense is done now.
He had the Giants score 13 points today. So that kind of tells you. To go into the stats of it, as I like to do frequently, we had Daniel Jones today, 19 for 30, 202 yards, and a touchdown. Saquon Barkley now, Alex, I get it. It's an offensive line issue, but it's also a Saquon Barkley because he's had a bad offensive line his entire career. And I know it's an even mix on both. Yes, it's bad offensive line. Yes, it's also Saquon Barkley, I think, too. Because he's had a bad offensive line his whole career, and he's been able to do very, very well. I just still haven't seen the Saquon Barkley of old, and that just might be because he's getting older. He's getting more injured, so he's not as, first of all, explosive as he was when he was a few years younger, and as explosive as he was before injuries 1, 2, and 3 stacked up, right? So it's like, I think that just definitely could be a reason. So he's just not Saquon Barkley of old. But he had 13 carries for 40 yards. That's about 3 yards a carry. Daniel Jones, like I said, I did see a lot more Daniel Jones runs today. I think that did have to do with Freddie Kitchens. I know he ran beforehand. I just think Kitchens might have emphasized that a little bit more. 9 carries, 30 yards. Again, about 3 yards a carry.
One thing I wanted to mention about Daniel Jones, I know a lot of people are like, Daniel Jones is running. He's not a scrambling quarterback. He's not a running quarterback. He's a pocket passer who happens to have some speed, if that makes any sense.
And that's what you need in the modern day NFL.
Yes, but I wouldn't put him in the conversation with someone like a Jalen Hurts, someone like a Lamar Jackson, someone like a Kyler Murray, a Russell Wilson even. Because he doesn't have that kind of shiftiness. He's fast when he gets going, like in a long distance sprint, but he's not like quick and agile through the tackles, like someone like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray or even Russell Wilson.
I mean, I completely agree with you, but he does have, Lamar Jackson speed, like you said, in the long run, like we saw in the Eagles game, when he absolutely collapsed instead of getting a touchdown. Right to where I was getting back to my point of stats, we had Devontae Booker. Didn't see him a lot today. 3 carries, 10 yards. And then Kenny Golladay, like I said, he was targeted, I believe, 7 times, 3 catches, 50 yards, no touchdown still. So no touchdown for the 4-year, $72 million man. Darius Slayton, 3 catches, 40 yards. Evan Ingram, 3 catches, 37 yards. So we're still being diverse when it comes to who we're throwing to. So I guess that's a good thing. And that'll do it for the offense because we can circle back to it later in this episode. I do think, though, the defense was a big part of this game. So, Alex, since I started with the offense, how about you start with the defense?
I thought the defense played well today. Obviously, we had a few issues. Darnay Holmes going down, Adoree Jackson going down. So we had some guys fill in. We ended up having Julian Love come down to the slot. We saw Aaron Robinson on the outside most of the time. I thought he played very well. There was a couple, bits and pieces. For example, the last play on the Jalen Reagor almost touchdown that he messed up a bit. But overall, I thought he was very solid. But
JR2 stepped in a little bit, the new Isaac Yiadom, number 27.
Yes, the new Isaac Yiadom, number 27. He's fine. I'm not going to say anything. James Bradbury was, I don't even think, targeted like once or twice maybe. Like, I don't even remember him being in the game, if I'm being completely honest.
I saw him in the Giants TikTok after they won saying, we'll win, any way we can. And I was like, you played today?
Yeah.
I thought James Bradbury was injured. I was like, what?
Here's the thing. When you're a corner and you don't know that they're in the game, that's usually a good thing. Because that means they're not being targeted. Usually means their man's not open. So, overall, good for him. Dexter Lawrence, I thought, had a good game. He was getting some nice interior pressure. Obviously, he forced the fumble at the end on Boston Scott. I thought he was solid, and he seemed to really disrupt the pocket a bit for Jalen Hurts. Ojulari and Roche, I thought, were decent setting the edge. Besides that, getting pressure on the quarterback, not really. Roche was worse than Ojulari in terms of getting to the quarterback. We really didn't get a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts today. So that was a big problem.
I think it was better than when we played Tom Brady, but I would agree that it wasn't as much pressure. We got in there. Still haven't finished the job with sacks, though. That's something I would like to emphasize. Sorry.
Leonard Williams, again, was non-existent, I felt like, today. I thought Dexter Lawrence, for example, got much more involved than someone like Leonard Williams, which is disappointing. It's upsetting, but Leonard Williams just needs to get his crap together. In terms of McKinney, obviously got another pick. Xavier McKinney is a real ball hawk and just a really great player, making very solid tackles. And Tay Crowder, I thought, played well today as well. And I'm not going to go over every single player, but those were some of the guys that stood out to me. In terms of the players that played really well, I'd go Dexter Lawrence, I'd go Xavier McKinney, and I'd go Julian Love. Those are my 3 standout guys on defense from today.
I thought Julian Love was not lucky, but he was able to scoop up the fumble. So I wouldn't give all the credit to him. He didn't strip it, but a good job by him to be able to pick it up.
No, I'm not saying because of that. I thought there was multiple pass breakups that he had and stuff like that would go, okay. So
I wasn't stepping on your toes, Alex. I was just talking about the fumble, the fumble recovery. That.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't referencing that in terms of his good performance.
You were though, because you were like, you were like, that's not why I gave him my player of the game.
Well, no, that's not why I'm saying that, because what I thought was most impressive is when he stepped into the slot and he was able to break up a few passes. Yeah. That's what I thought was impressive, and he was on Dallas Goedert at certain points. I thought he played well against him, who got completely shut down despite being my X factor. I guess that's a good thing.
And that's so funny that you went to that, because we think alike. We think alike. Co-hosts think alike here, because I was about to say Devonta Smith. This kind of alludes to our X factors, because that just shows how good, quote unquote, the Giants defense was today and how bad this Eagles offense was today. I had Smith. He didn't do so well. You had Goddard. He didn't do so well. To break it down a little bit more, I'll tell you the stats on both of them. It was Smith with 2 catches for 22 yards. Goddard with 1 catch for 0 yards. So technically I won this week, but I wouldn't brag about that. So it wasn't anything crazy. If you were to choose a player of the game, it would be Boston Scott,
who I did mention very clearly.
Yes, you mentioned him as a Giants killer, but the tides have turned. It's flipped, whatever you want to call it, because no more. We were able to kind of break that down. He really lost on this game, but not really, because there was that final drive. Which I know I keep on alluding to it, but they
shot themselves in the foot, no pun intended, with the Giants history. But anyway, they really shot themselves in the foot in terms of losing this game. I wouldn't say the Giants killed them in any way. They just killed them. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that they just really screwed themselves.
Giants screwed themselves, Graham Gano specifically, with a 51-yard field goal miss. We don't see that a lot from the Graham Gano.
The GOAT Gano. No, not often.
Yeah, the GOAT Gano, seriously. And then we had, we didn't mention this on the offensive side of things. Myrick. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, but the player who was what's the
number
word?
41. Yeah, elevated from the practice squad.
Elevated, not relevated. Relevated. Elevated from the Giants practice squad for this game due to the injured Kyle Rudolph and Caden Smith, right?
Yeah.
So he was elevated from the practice squad, made a humongous, DeAndre Hopkins type leg catch in the end zone. Eagles players all thought he was down. The ball was in the ground. It wasn't. It was a great catch by him, so I'd like to mention that there. So there was that. So, okay. I would agree. Leonard Williams, I didn't see a lot of him. Xavier McKinney, good job. He almost had 2 interceptions, Alex, on that final drive. He stepped in, completely read Jalen Hurts, and almost picked it off, and that's why he plays safety and not wide receiver, because he was not able to come up with that. Literally in his hands, in and out of his hands, but I don't blame him. He was kind of running in, him and the receiver clash, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Luckily, it didn't come down to that, as, that could have been the Giants winning this game if he made that pick. So we're okay there. And it's more now I want to go to the Eagles offense more than the Giants defense, in the place where Jalen Hurts, right, for all, like I was saying, I think earlier, right, in the episode, all of you saying that Jalen Hurts is better than Daniel Jones, that's a lie after this game. He was doing so well running the ball. And then when he threw it was atrocious. He was throwing it downfield into double coverage. That was McKinney's pick. It just wasn't good. He just wasn't good throwing the ball. So he threw 3 interceptions today. The stat line would be 14 for 31, 129 yards, and 3 interceptions. It's atrocious. The atrocious stat line. But yeah, I would like to point out, because it looks a little different when you go to rushing. 8 carries for 77 yards. It's almost 10 yards a carry. And then you go to throwing it, and he has 3 picks. So maybe Jalen Hurts should just convert, go a different position, and just become a running back for this Eagles team. And have your backup quarterback step up, whoever that is. I don't even know the backup quarterback is for the Eagles. But just to, I don't know what we were doing with Hurts. But just a really bad game for him today. And Nick Sirianni with having him throw deep like that. You can also put some blame on the Eagles head coach in that way. I don't know where they were targeting, but the Giants did a great job locking them up for the most part. Only allowed 0 points through the first 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter, obviously they got the Boston Scott touchdown. All right, you ready? Are you ready to go to the final drive, Alex? I think it's that point.
Final drive time. Oh, God.
So basically the Giants, they can't ice games. They cannot finish football games whatsoever. It's always been that way. I swear, this is where I really think that the NFL is a scripted game, because the Giants always make it that way, in where they have to put fans on the edge of their goddamn seats. Every time. They can't nicely, clearly, easily win a football game. It can't happen. Us Giants fans can't have a nice, easy, cozy, sit in our bed, sit in front of a warm fire with the marshmallow victory. It can't happen. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoy Thursday. Giants and John Mara be like, yeah, we're not going to let that happen. It's Sunday now. Thursday was 4 days away. You enjoyed seeing your family on the holiday. You're not going to enjoy watching this Giants game, because I'm not going to let it happen. As they can't close out games. And it doesn't even look like they want to close out games. That's the problem. That's really the problem. I understand we're trying to waste the clock. We're trying to run it down. But the 3 straight halfback dives, what does that really accomplish besides wasting the clock down? Because we're not getting a first down. And then it turns out it's just a bad Riley Dixon punt to give them good field position in the end of things. And speaking of it, because I was thinking about running the clock, timeouts, Joe Judge had some epic timeout calls in this game, especially on the punt. He really did. I went crazy. I laughed so hard when he looked at the Eagles' punt blocking formation and then called a timeout. He really had to see what their formation was before he punted. Mind you, called a timeout, then Riley Dixon delivers a hell of a bad punt. And that was really, really great. And then another timeout called in the first half in the second quarter with a bunch of time left. He called a timeout. I don't even remember the specifics on that. But just the one with the Eagles thing cracked me up. Like, oh, yeah. Special teams genius Joe Judge really needed to call a timeout on that special teams play on that Riley Dixon punt that ended up being a bad punt anyway. Wow. Real great job, Judge. Sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
So I'm about to do something radical here. I can't believe I'm about to say this. But I'm going to defend the offensive play calling on that last offensive drive. For me, I'd do exactly what they did, run the ball. I would have run the ball all 3 times, actually. I would not have done that play action with Daniel Jones or whatever where he had to sit down at the end. I would have run the ball 3 times, waste all their timeouts, and then hopefully you don't lose 10 yards. That would be important. So then you'd be up maybe 15 more yards. You'd have a good punt. That would give you another 15 more yards, hopefully, than that terrible punt by Riley Dixon. And then you're pinning them very deep. So that's what I would have done. Just run the ball 3 times, punted it away, and then hope our defense played well all game. And they should play well enough to stop them from scoring a touchdown with a minute left and, no time.
We gave them the opportunity to go to Kenneth goddamn Gainwell, Alex, like for 2 of the same route. I think it was like a curl for like 16 yards and get out of bounds. They had basically no timeouts left. The primary basis of the defense, you would think at that point, running through their heads, which I'm sure Patrick Graham told them, keep them in bounds. Couldn't do that in the first few plays. They drove down. This whole game, and all the Eagles fans should blame, is Jalen Reagor. There was a play down the left part of the sideline that was in Reagor's hands. I'm like watching it as I'm talking about it. That's why I'm looking down for anyone watching. Bobbled in his hands, and then Julian Love almost came up with the pick there. And then the final play of the game, I thought it was just a bad throw. It was, but Reagor was able to get up there, got the air yards, jump up in the air, and right through his hands. And Aaron Robinson was behind him on the play.
Got to snag that in. And that was one of the plays that I said Aaron Robinson didn't have great coverage there. But, we can't just dwell on the other team forever, obviously, because then we're just going to it's just not going to be good. Mm-hmm. But, obviously the Eagles really shot themselves in the foot. And that's basically the main point of us talking about this.
Yeah.
And that the Giants really got lucky.
Giants did really get lucky. Alex. But, I mean, that was basically just the final drive. The Giants, of course, can never sit tight, and give the Eagles a kick in the ass, basically. Like, they can't be like, "Yep, we won." No, we have to give you a chance to win, right? Like, let's help you out here, huh? And then the Eagles gave it right back, and we're like, "Hey, you know what? Let's give you the win. We're gonna drop 2 passes, both in the end zone, to win us the game. How about that? Congrats, Giants." So, at that point, that's just what it was. That's how this game ended, but. Just a bad job by Jalen Reagor, right? Showing signs of Darius Slayton, and we've had that before, right? It's not like we've never had someone who can't catch balls in the end zone because we've had that earlier this season. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, I think that's really it for this episode. I do really appreciate everyone listening. You can subscribe to the podcast everywhere you listen. Subscribe on YouTube, like the video. We're hoping to do more YouTube content, so please stay tuned because we have a lot of ideas written down here that we both kind of collaborated on that we're hoping to nail down in the future. And I'm trying to shipitstudios.com/giant take. That's shipitstudios.com/giant take. I was getting to it. And then it's Instagram, Twitter, I would say in the order of, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. The Giant Take Pod is where you follow us there. And that's going to be everything I want to say. I think, and the Giants play in Miami next week. Miami Dolphins. Right now, the updated NFC East standings, I want to do that before we kind of get out of here. It is in first place, the Dallas Cowboys at 7-4, Eagles at 5-7 in second, Washington at 4-6 in third, and the Giants, after winning, still sit in fourth at 4-5. Yes, 4-7. So next weekend, 1:00 game against the Miami Dolphins down in Florida, Miami, Florida. Alex, you want to wrap it up?
Thank you, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Enjoy while you can. Not often the Giants win. And we'll see everyone next time to preview the Miami Dolphins game in Miami.
Happy Victory Monday.
Happy Victory Monday. Peace.